Death Becomes Her may not be your typical Halloween movie, but it is part of a dying breed.
Canada be damned. I'm going to the Klondike.
The Klondike is Canada.
Giorgio, you be doing just fine, brother.
A while back, I revisited Robert Zemeckis' dark comedy Death Becomes Her, a movie I hadn't seen since its release when I was a young boy at the drive-in. And to my surprise, I was astonished by what I found. The premise and certain standout moments never left my mind, but the aspects, one in particular, which were overshadowed by Death Becomes Her's spectacle, seemed to be resurrected and given new life seeing it years later as a grown adult.
It's alive.
But before we dig up what that is, let's refresh the minds of those who did forget Death Becomes Her's premise, as well as introduce it to those unfamiliar. Death Becomes Her follows frenemies Helen Sharp, played by Goldie Hawn, and Madeline Ashton, played by Meryl Streep, who have a catty relationship which ultimately comes to a head when Madeline steals Helen's fiancé, Dr. Ernest Menville, played by Bruce Willis.
He never told me he had such a Madeline Ashton thing.
Well, we're both huge fans.
I'm sure he doesn't have a thing. Do you?
Years later, unbeknownst to each other, both Helen and Madeline take a magic potion by a mysteriously underclothed woman named Liesel, played by Isabella Rossellini. The potion grants them lasting youthful looks, but after they're both murdered, they soon discovered it has the added side effect of everlasting immortality.
You're in violation of every natural law that I know.
I violated what law?
In violation of every natural law that I know. You're sitting there, you're talking to me, but you're dead! I'm gonna get help!
It's no secret comedies are on the decline, especially those with a theatrical release, but comedies like Death Becomes Her are even more of a rarity. The dark comedy with grotesque twisted humor is something we don't see that often anymore. Sure, we get the Christopher Landon horror comedies, but those are comedies built around the slasher film genre. Unlike Beetlejuice or some of the Sam Raimi-directed Evil Dead films, these films have a quasi-grounded-to-reality world in which they live in. Although Death Becomes Her isn't quite as zany or absurd as Beetlejuice or Army of Darkness, it feels as if it's at that end of the spectrum because it's dark, fantastical, and yet still amusing.
It's not really an exact science.
Ernest.
It's not an exact...
Ernest. Ernest! You pushed me down the stairs.
But what's even more deceased than this type of film is this type of acting from these particular actors. The paramount thing that stood out to me watching Death Becomes Her again after so many years is the kind of performances we get from these A-list actors. At the time, comedies were the usual staple for Goldie Hawn. Bruce Willis was beginning to phase them out as he established himself as more of an action star, and Meryl Streep had virtually nothing on her resume as far as comedies were concerned prior to this. For Streep, she was very much playing against her usual type, embodying the delightfully bitchy Madeline Ashton, yet she didn't do it with an acknowledging wink and a smile. In keeping with her status as an accomplished, serious actor, Streep merely made it about the character, and all of the humor was sold from that. It's similar to other humorously aggressive roles she took on afterwards in films like The Devil Wears Prada and August Osage County.
Are you listening to me? Do you even care? You just stand there with your 22-year-old skin in your tits like rocks and laughing.
Madeline, I forgot. She's here to fix that.
Who is she?
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Who is the little piece of meat?
She's a friend of the guy who was here to fix...
Oh, for Christ's sake, at least lie quickly.
I am trying to.
For Bruce Willis, Death Becomes Her showcases a type of acting we may have never seen from him before this, and certainly not after. Like Michael Keaton in Beetlejuice, Willis takes on a physicality and a way of delivering lines which makes Dr. Ernest Menville a frantic, manic mess that's absolutely hilarious.
Who keeps calling?
Huh?
Who is that?
I can't have these interruptions! I should have divorced Madeline a long time ago. Oh, by God, that is exactly what I am going to do. The first thing tomorrow morning, I am going to go downtown and I am going to obtain a divorce from Madeline Ashton.
Ernest.
Well, the first thing Monday morning, then.
Ernest.
At the very least Tuesday.
Ernest.
Where did you put my wife?
Don't worry about that now. Just give yourself some time to grieve.
Where did you put my wife?
She's dead, sir. They took her to the morgue.
The morgue? She'll be furious.
And Goldie Hawn didn't do either of these things, although she does put in a worthy performance here. But what's ironic is how Hawn seemed to take Liesel's professional advice before she decided to peace out from Hollywood.
You may continue your career for 10 years of perfect, unchanged beauty. But at the end of that time, before people become suspicious, you have to disappear from public view forever.
Death Becomes Her may be a departure for Streep, Willis, and even Zemeckis, but it's not so much so that it alienates the audience. Like I said before, it doesn't go so far out there like Beetlejuice or Evil Dead, but it does still have the well-timed lightning.
Oh boy. It's a miracle!
Well, I wouldn't say so. Death Becomes Her is not the most widely spoken of film for anyone involved, which is a prime reason for it being showcased on this channel. Nevertheless, Death Becomes Her is a fun, dark-humored ride, and although it may be dead and buried for most, it's still quite enjoyable and fresh if you're willing to put age before beauty.